Sup, matriarchal fornicators? Pretentious gentleman here. Have you guys ever played Dungeons and Dragons? Or any form of role-playing game? Not that kind of roleplay. I mean like the video game or tabletop kind. For those of you who haven't, the closest equivalent would be a choose-your-own-adventure book, but a little more advanced, although with no less reading and just as many paper cuts. Today I'll be going a little different in style, probably less dick jokes. I know, I'm sorry too. Today I'll be doing a straight, analogical explanation of systemic racism and privilege, a topic I'm sure you'll be happy to hear from me, a straight white cis male. So strap in, or strap on, if you're into that sort of thing, and let's dive right in. To go about this, I decided to use Skyrim as my base model. If you don't know what that is, Google that shit. Or buy it, or rent it, or borrow the game, or stream it like some sort of psychopath. For the older generation, it's Dungeons & Dragons the video game, where the game's system is the dungeon master, and you're the only player. So, using Skyrim's Wikipedia, I took two races and tallied up their notable characters. First, there were the Nords, William Wallace types with Schwarzenegger accents and magnetic patellas. They make up the majority of Skyrim, having come from a land far away and colonized the place by slaughtering the indigenous snow elves. The Wikipedia listed 21 major character entries, sans DLC. There's a shit ton more Nords in the game, but I don't have enough time to get through them all, so we're taking this as a sample size. Then there's the Dunmer, the Dark Elves, a race of elves who are refugees in Skyrim, running away from a huge volcano eruption that occurred in their homeland. They face prejudice from many of the Nords in Skyrim for being elves and being refugees. There's even a Nord stronghold called Windhelm, where Dark Elves are all forced to live in a place called the Grey Quarter, a slum where one drunk Nord likes to walk the streets at night and drunkenly challenge them all to a fight. The Dark Elves had 12 notable character entries. Again, there's more in the game, but we're using these for simplicity's sake. Now, in this game, the main goal is to complete quests, which net you experience, raise your skills, and get you gold and loot. The higher your level, the easier the game gets. The more skills you get, the cooler the stuff you can do. Now, of those notable Nords, between the lot of them, there were a total of 48 quests, including 3 repeatable ones. Repeatable quests are good for raising your skills and getting more gold easier. For the Dark Elves, there were 9 quests available and only 1 repeatable quest. Also, for those keeping track at home, 3 of the player-owned properties available were made to purchase by Nords, while 0 were sold by the Dark Elves. Now, picture the game putting new limitations in, or a mod for those that know the lingo, that makes it so that you can only take quests from characters who share the same race as your character. That means, if you're a Nord, you've got roughly 5 times the quests available to you and access to 3 properties. It also means you have access to 3 quests that provide a recurring income. If you're a Dark Elf, you get 9 quests, 0 properties, and 1 option for residual income. That option is also only available from a dead person, but hey, you take what you can get. If the game were to work in this segregated way, people probably wouldn't choose to be the Dark Elf, obviously, because the game would be inherently rigged against them, as huge chunks would be cut off to the player just because of their race. Now, imagine if Skyrim suddenly got a multiplayer edition. No, not that one, but similar. One where you had no say over which race you got to play, and you could never switch races, and those same restrictions were in place. You would want your frickin' money back if you got stuck playing as a Dark Elf in that scenario. Not only would you get less content, but anyone who got to play as a Nord would be teabagging your corpse with all the extra experience they would have at their disposal. Now, as time goes on, the Dark Elf players might start arguing with the game creators, as you would, demanding refunds or that they at the very least fix the fucking game so that it's fair for everyone. So the company opens up all quests to everyone regardless of race. Problem solved, right? Well, no, not really, because all of those Dark Elf players are still at a disadvantage because all of the Nord players have had all that extra time to do all of those extra quests. We're talking super overpowered veteran players who have gotten access to all the best gear, and now they get to do more fun things, while any Dark Elves who maxed out their playthroughs would still be about a fifth of the level of those Nords. Now, this is usually the part when critics interject and say that it's perfectly possible for players to work hard and become successful regardless. And sure, if the Dark Elf player is some sort of gaming addict who makes leveling up their entire life's goal and forgoes everything from sleeping to eating to good mental health, they might end up at the same level as the high-level Nords. Or if they luck out, they might find some sort of glitch in the game system that they can exploit and get them to the top.
Although, if they do find it, if any Nord players find out, goodbye having an edge on the competition. And then, of course, new Nord players are probably going to be all pissy about having to compete with the Dark Elves now. Had they shown up earlier, they could have reaped all the benefits of the old broken system. Now they have to compete with the Dark Elves while all of the established Nords from before lord over all of them with their fancy suits of armor and shiny axes. So the new Nords want things easier like the last system, while the Dark Elves as a whole are still miles behind the first Nords.
So how do we fix this system? Jesus. Fuck. Why is the camera on? To fix the system, we are going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Rat race got you down? Tired of people not doing everything you tell them to do? Convinced that you and you alone can change the world because you're a special boy? Well, look no further. The Dictator's Guide to Destroying Democracy is here to help you fulfill your dictatorial dreams. Get advice from famous dictators like Benito Mussolini, General Idi Amin Dada, this fat fuck, and many more experts in the field of dictatorship. So buy The Dictator's Guide to Destroying Democracy, available now on Amazon.
And we're back seamlessly. So before the break, I was talking about systemic racism and using Skyrim as an analogy. Well, before I talk about solutions, which, don't worry, I will, I'd like to talk about another concept. Privilege, using the same analogous environment. And away we go!
So again, let's say that the full segregation was present at the beginning of the game, but then the game creators decided that it was unfair and decided to change things. But instead of all players getting access to whatever they want, they make a new skill requirement check necessary for all quests. Every quest now requires a skill check to be able to take it, meaning it can be blocked off to anyone unable to pass the check, but be available to anyone who does pass it. There's still 48 Nord quests, 3 of them Radiant, and 3 properties, and there's still only 9 Dark Elf quests, but anybody and everybody can, theoretically, do any quest, provided they pass the skill check. But the game creators add something that can change the odds of you passing that skill check: the bonus modifier system. The modifiers they add are financial checks that add a +2 modifier for every 1,000 gold you carry, and of course, the racial modifier, which adds a +2 bonus to shared races. Now, that doesn't seem too unfair, right? If anyone can get a modifier for gold, that should equalize things, right? Well, any Dungeons & Dragons player will point out that adding +2 to his skill check can make all the difference. So in practice, the Nords are still at an advantage, and the additional financial bonus stacks on that. If a Nord with 3,000 gold is doing a skill check with another Nord quest giver, that's a +8 bonus to getting that quest and all of the benefits it can reap. Each quest can increase your skill and income, so every additional bonus means more opportunities, which will lead to more skills, more money, and even more opportunities, so on and so forth. So a Dark Elf with the same 3,000 gold only gets a +6 bonus when dealing with a Nord. If there's still more Nords than Dark Elves, there's still an advantage. Nords are also still the only ones who give away property, meaning that Nords are at an advantage for getting a player home and all of its advantages. Imagine if player housing was finite per server. Dark Elves would be fucked. Even a Nord with 0 gold is automatically better off than a Dark Elf with 0 gold, because the Nord will have more opportunities just because of that +2 bonus. Now, while all new players would all have 0 gold, any Nords who were there in the very beginning would still be miles higher in level than any Dark Elf could ever hope to get. Competing with the Nords who got rich off the broken system would still be damn near impossible, even for other Nords. Several of them would probably be no better off than the Dark Elves. Also, some of the new Nords would probably blame the Dark Elves for their struggles too, because they'd be competing at the same level, while they'd never think to blame the residual damage of the broken system. In both of these scenarios, the system is rigged for Nord players, making it easier for them to get opportunities for quests and the wealth and skills that come with them. When a competitive multiplayer aspect is put into play, it makes the game ludicrously unfair on those of a particular race, and also on those of lower financial standing.
If there's one thing I hate almost as much as inequality, it's continuity errors. I'll be right back. Games require rules. Games are just systems that dictate what you can and can't do. And measures of success are dependent on the rules put in place and subsequently hindered or helped by those mechanics. These two examples are tilted unfairly to one side. Fixing these kinds of problems once they occur is difficult, but not impossible.
Oh, thank God I'm off camera now. Okay, so one thing that could help fix this sort of inequality would be to redistribute some of the wealth from the now obscenely overpowered original Nords. Maybe give some back pay gold to the Dark Elves who have been playing since back in the day as compensation for suffering under the broken system. Providing access to a player home for every new player so as to allow a safe place to protect themselves from other, more established players. A basic starting income so that no matter how owned you are by a boss, you can still survive to fight another day is another option. Make skill checks purely skill-based instead of adding dumb modifiers. And make a bunch of skill leveling quests free to all players to allow for easier leveling up to maximize access to bigger and better quests, making it fair for everyone.
There will still be issues present from the old systems, but with enough hard work, the power dynamic can be thwarted enough to allow for a much more pleasant experience for everyone. An experience where, whether you're a Nord or a Dark Elf, you can play the game and not feel like the whole system is rigged against you.